Brainscan, directed by John Flynn, starring Edward Furlong, Frank Langella, and Amy Hargreaves. Brainscan holds a very special place in my heart, and the reason why is because it takes me back to a time when I was 10 years old. I rented it one weekend from my local Blockbuster, and I watched that film at least 2 times that weekend. I vividly remember the first kill in this film giving me nightmares, how the film's score really creeped me out, and how Trickster scared the hell out of me. It had been at least 20 years since I had seen this film, and I wanted to share my rediscovery of this film with you guys, and hopefully recommend a little hidden gem from the 90s. With all that said, let's get into the plot. Major spoilers ahead. The film follows Michael Brower, who lives in isolation in his father's mansion, who is away for most of the time, and Michael's mother was killed in a car accident, which also permanently injured Michael's leg. He's a huge fan of horror films and video games, and Michael's only friend is named Kyle. And during his spare time, he creeps on his neighbor Kimberly, which is just weird and off-putting as it was when I first saw it. They have a horror club at their school, which the principal bans. So Kyle tells Michael about a new ultra-realistic game called Brainscan. Michael becomes curious and sends away for the disc. The game arrives and Michael is eager to play the game. The game turns on its own and Michael begins the game. During his first level of the game, he's introduced to this entity named Trickster, and he tells him to go murder a random stranger. So in game, Michael murders the stranger and takes his foot as a trophy. Michael successfully completes the level and comes to, and at first he thinks it was all a game. He chugs a giant glass of milk, which is probably the most upsetting part of this film. He tells his buddy the next day how cool it was to commit murder, and they say goodbye in the most 90s way possible. But later he's horrified to discover that his victim in the game was a real person, and that same murder also happened in the real world. It's at this point where we get our proper introduction to Trickster, and Trickster is easily the best part of this film. Even if the CGI is an eyesore, he brings much needed fun and charisma to the film, because at this point it's a bit of a slog. Besides the first kill of the film, nothing's really happened. Then there's a scene of Michael chasing a dog who's carrying around the foot that he severed from his first victim. Trickster lets Michael know that there is a possible witness to the first murder, and he tells Michael that he has to play the second game, and at first Michael refuses, but eventually he gives in. Unfortunately, he doesn't have any memory of playing the game. He looks in his refrigerator like he did when he found the severed foot, and he finds Kyle's necklace bloody in his freezer, and he realizes he murdered his best friend Kyle. Trickster instructs him that he has to go and cover up his tracks and that no one has to die. Neighborhood watch and police are all over the town. His principal ends up dying from an accident, and one of the neighborhood watch people kills a police officer. Between the police and the neighborhood watch people, these are some of the dumbest characters I've seen in film. And so from there, Trickster lets Michael know there's another witness and that Kimberly must be dealt with. So at nightfall, Michael sneaks into her room, but he refuses to kill her, and Trickster reveals to him that he's actually the evil part of Michael's subconscious. And this is when we're treated to some truly delightful early 90s CGI that only the Lawnmower Man can rival. Not only is the girl totally into him, which is really weird and off-putting, but somehow Trickster brings the detective. He takes out Michael. Michael wakes up from the game. The entire thing was a fantasy. On the surface, this may seem like a cop-out, but if you dig a little bit deeper, it makes a lot of sense. He starts out the film about to play the game, and everything that he does in the game doesn't have any consequences. What you do in a video game won't change anything in the real world. Just like his friend is still alive, and the girl that he's been creeping on isn't necessarily gonna say yes to going on a date with him. Although she also has issues with respecting boundaries. At the end of the film, we see Michael handing off his copy of Brainscan to the principal for review for the horror club. Trickster then appears behind the principal, alluding to the fact that he'll be playing the same antics that he did on Michael. Brainscan's got a lot of issues, tons of plot holes, and some dated CGI, but there's something so charming about this film. I can put this one on anytime, and it almost transports me back to 1994. If you're looking for a film that encapsulates the 90s, Brainscan is a great little snapshot. It hasn't aged that well, but the film's got a lot of charm. I do wish it had more kills and some more gore. With all that said, Brainscan gets a low end add to the collection, with the caveat that I'd recommend this more for fans of this film, for those that have nostalgia for it like I do, or for collectors of deep cut horror films. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for coming by, and I'll see you guys in the next video.